Conference. All right, let's get it.
Well, good morning, everyone. I mean, no pressure, right? My goodness. So it is a pleasure to be here. I have been looking forward to this. Before she rushes off to the next thing, I got to give a little shout out to Bird. Bird has brought us back together after 2 years of being apart.
Man, thank you for supporting me, Christy. I love you.
I love you. I love you. All right, now go handle something somewhere else because we got it under control. We got to lock down up in here.
You got it.
But listen, you know, I am so excited about this panel, and I'm so excited about this conversation. So I want to talk a little bit about my journey to get here today, and I wanted to make sure I wrote this on my very technical thing. Now, I don't want my team to get mad because I do have other talking points and I will get to those. So I tried to be intentional, and I've been journaling lately. So I got up this morning and I have a little ritual, and I lit a candle that I actually bought at the DC pop-up store. And it was from the Card Bureau, a women-owned business. And I started to, you know, write my little thoughts down. That candle's almost gone. My next candle is going to be from Solex, another women-owned business. I'm almost finished with my current notebook, but my next notebook is going to be from Zenit, which is a women-owned business. Beautiful, handcrafted notebooks. Also run by a woman who happens to teach capoeira to my kids. But a little side note there. Got dressed this morning. Shout out to Rocks and Glitter. Then I put on this necklace, and I thought, is it too much? And then I was like, I'm gonna wear it anyway. And how come women always have to ask ourselves, is it too much? So we're gonna put a pin in that for some conversations with women. And how come we're always sort of editorializing for ourselves? Is it too much? And this is made by a local maker whose name is Joy, and I forget her business, and so I will find that out and I will Instagram it later. There was lotion involved, and it was the lemon, and you can tell me which one it was.
Lemon verbena.
From Shay Aileen, from a maker you're about to meet. On my way out the door, look, all of this doesn't stay unfrizzy by itself. I'm just gonna grow. It's gonna grow, it's gonna rain later. So there was some hair oil that I had bought from the Spice Suite, another woman-owned business. And I think it was Tay-Tay's hair oil that I had run out of, but then I had bought my husband some beard oil. And it smelled nice too, so I just used that. Don't tell him, because I have more hair than he does, and so I used that, and it smelled nice. On the way out the door, I passed by some art that I have bought hither and yon, a beautiful piece of art that I actually bought at the Anacostia Art Show. Where's Kiana has moved on, but by BZ. And I have another piece of art that I also love by Nia Katura Calhoun. And I say all this to say that women, you know, we are doing a lot of things. We are making things, we are creating things, we are deciding things, and it is incorporating all aspects of our lives, right? And so I set that as the foundation of SheMade, because then, you know, in addition to actual things, you know, we make people. I'm a mother of two. Well, let's just like stick a pin in that, because that happens as we do other things. And we create community. And so when we're thinking about, you know, what we're talking about when we say SheMade, like she has made a lot of things over the years. And so when we talk about how we do it, I thought there's not, you know, three better people to talk about when we say SheMade than these beautiful women. So I'm going to keep it short, but it's not short anymore, but I'm going to introduce these women. And I want to talk about when we say SheMade, what does that mean? You know, we have business owners who are creating things, they are creating community, they are creating opportunities. And so I'm gonna ask them to introduce themselves and then get ready because there's a pop quiz for you. So, introduce yourselves, 2 or 3 minutes, but the final thing I want you all to offer up is something that you're grateful for.
Thank you. I guess I will start. I just want to thank everyone for being here, and this opportunity to share my journey as an entrepreneur and a maker in DC. My name is Rahma Wright. And my company is SheMade, which is a DC-based social impact business I started after serving in the Peace Corps, and we create body care products. So our whole thing is looking at how to ethically source plant-based ingredients from women-owned cooperatives in West Africa, Ghana specifically, make products that are good for our customers because they're natural, they're not using toxic chemicals. And by building that, we create living wage jobs, increasing women's income by 5 times their country's minimum wage. And I started this journey because for me, I am a Black woman, I am African, I am an American. I live in so many different worlds and so many intersections, and I've been fortunate enough to travel to 36 countries. 20 of them are on the continent of Africa, and everywhere I go, it never ceases to surprise me that the people who struggle the most in any country I travel to are people who look like me, are people who have my skin color, are people who have my hair texture, and are people who I have a common history with. And even though I grew up in upstate New York, outside of Syracuse, in a middle class family, I can always identify with the struggles of people in the diaspora. And when I served as a Peace Corps volunteer and saw a lot of the issues around sustainability, around African women, and a lot of the challenges that they're dealing with, you listed so many, and so many things in terms of what women represent. And I just saw a huge disconnect between what women in their traditional communities make and how that translates to the global marketplace, and the exclusion that happens for so many people. It was just baffling to me. And so I was in my early 20s. I had absolutely no business starting a business. But when I moved to DC, and I knew I always wanted to live in DC, so I moved to DC in 2005, I decided to start this business, and with a very singular focus of eradicating rural poverty that has been systemic in a lot of these communities, by connecting the dots between how they make their products and how that product gets to market. And so what I'm grateful for, I will say, on this journey, I've been an entrepreneur for over 15 years, and I'm most grateful for not giving up. Being Black is hard. Being a woman is hard. And I've realized that we should stop thinking that life should be easy. Life is hard. That's just it. Like, life is hard. And I'm just grateful that I didn't allow the challenges, the moments where things were pushing me down to make me stop, because I truly believe that when we, and when I say our collective we, when we really stand in our power and when we come together, we can be unstoppable. And so for me, it's the gratitude of being persistent and knowing that what I'm working for is the same thing Harriet Tubman worked for. And so, yeah.
All right, we're gonna snap it back.
Oh, yeah.
All right. No pressure, Adriana. Okay. But you know what? I'm not worried about this, because this next person has been creating community and doing amazing work. So, Adriana.
We all have our own stories,
yeah,
and each one is beautiful. Absolutely. So there is no competition here.
Absolutely.
My name is Adriana Mendoza. Thank you so much for being here, and I'm so blessed to have this opportunity to speak on behalf of Femme Fatale DC. I am one of the co-founders of this entity. Femme Fatale DC has been a lot of things to many, many people. To date, since we started in 2016, we have been supporting and nurturing women creatives, over 600 women entrepreneurs and creatives. Many have gone on to do their own thing, which is beautiful. But today, what we are is we are a grassroots retail venture. And we are more than just a storefront. We have had 6 pop-ups. That has always been our model, where we pop up, then we pop back down. And it has served us really well because we have been able to help incubate all of our entrepreneurs to understand their market base. So we've done this on purpose, going into different neighborhoods and trying to, have the B2C, right? The business to customer experience, and to have our entrepreneurs invest in themselves by really testing out their products in many, many different types of environments. One of the things that I guess the easiest way, it's really hard to explain what Femme Fatale DC is because there's so much energy that goes into everything that we do. That energy and that magic that we create is because we are grassroots, which means that we have our entrepreneurs, our community, actually help build our physical space. They come and they paint, they come and they build, they have their products in there. Anything that needs to get done, gets done. We actually did not get funding for anything that we did until 2020, and we wanted it that way. We wanted to make sure that we could sustain ourselves, and that ultimately is what our business is about, is teaching each other that we have to be self-reliant. And if 2020 taught us anything, is that we are all on our own. We are in this market economy, but we have the power to begin thinking in alternative economies. And so Femme Fatale DC, the way that I like to put it is we are the pebble that hits the water and we create the ripple. We are the agitators, we are the disruptors, we are the change makers to help people get into business and make a stand for themselves and make a life for themselves. And so we definitely inspire our creatives to take charge of their income and in turn their fate. Because when you have control over your fate, you walk differently, you talk differently, and different types of opportunities come to you. So that's a little bit about Femme Fatale DC.
What are you grateful for?
Oh, I am grateful for all of the people that have come into my life, especially since 2016. You are correct, life is not easy. It has been extremely challenging. I am really grateful for being consistent. I can thank the other co-founder for reminding me that consistency is key, and that all these creatives that I have been in contact with have shown me who I am, and that I've also then been able to reflect that back to them. So I'm just grateful for the community that we built.
All right, and
hello. Hi. Hello. Hi, everyone. My name is Anika Barnes. And I am the owner and curator of Neighbors DC, formerly known as Neighbors Diverse Community. I'm also the owner and happy baker over at A Contemporary Market and Bakery. Okay. Can I start off with what I'm grateful for first? Okay. Okay. I'm grateful for God. God is amazing. God is omnipotent. God is powerful. God is anointing. And I'm a testament of all of those things. So I'm grateful for God. My business started off in 2020, I believe, in the butt of the pandemic. I was actually working at Steadfast Supply. Shout out to Virginia and team. And, the pandemic came about and I was like, I need to leave simply because it didn't make sense to commute back and forth to Maryland and DC. I was living in Maryland. I still live in Maryland. And I started doing this Monday cooking show on my Instagram stories, and I was baking and I was creating these gourmet recipes, and it was cool. And Adriana from Femme Fatale was actually following me at the time. And as the months went by, my unemployment just all of a sudden stopped. For 13 weeks, y'all. But I was hustling on the side. I was doing social media, promoting and doing all of that freelance work. I reached out to Femme Fatale because I started repurposing clothes as well. I'm a happy creative. And she said, hey, do you want to bring some cupcakes to the pop-up as well? So I applied to be in their store, but I don't know what was happening at the time, but I applied to be in the store. She pivoted and she said, hey, come to the pop-up instead. It was successful. It was my first ever pop-up. I baked. The cupcakes weren't that great, but I was confident and no one had to know that I felt they weren't that great. But people came out and they showed love. And it's funny you mentioned you give entrepreneurs a start. Sorry, I'm kind of nervous. You give entrepreneurs a start, and Femme Fatale definitely made me feel like, wow, I can really do this. I can bake my goods. I can be this fashion creative. I can be anyone who I want to be. And I know this sounds like the generic, I can be who I want to be, but honestly, y'all, you can literally do whatever you want to do. Sometimes God will put you in situations where you have to pivot, where you have to change your mindset, and you have to do it swiftly. And I was so grateful that I walked by faith and not by sight, and the opportunity came about. So A Contemporary Market and Bakery started off, in Maryland, segued into DC, and from that, Neighbors DC came about. Neighbors Diverse Community is a community-rooted pop-up and creative hive for small, local, and independent brands in the DMV. If you have a small business, if you're thinking of starting a small business, come through. There's a space for you. Currently, we're partnered with Lululemon in Union Market, DC, and we have other partners like the Washington Housing Conservancy. Who else? A few other businesses, small businesses and conglomerates. Our newest partner is Steadfast Supply down at the Yards. So we start on the 16th. So you can definitely come out, shop small, shop local. We have an amazing curation of vendors, and they come from all over the DMV. Thank you.
So, when Bert and I were sort of talking about doing a SheMade panel, I thought bringing together curators was probably one of the best ways to sort of approach this topic, because these are women who are artists and people who are also helping bring creatives along. But I want to find out, by a show of hands, I now got a pop quiz for the audience, because this is a participation sort of thing, because, women are collaborative. All right, so I want you guys raise your hands, with a show of hands. How many people in the room? Oh, good. You're here just in time. Raise your hand if you consider yourself a creative. All right, very good. Good. Raise your hand if you make money doing your creative thing. Raise your hand if you support yourself full-time doing your creative thing. Raise your hand if you hire employees. All right. That's okay. Come on, raise them high, guys. Raise them high. Be proud. Raise your hand if you wish somebody had given you a roadmap. Raise your hand if somebody had ever told you that you were crazy to be doing what you're doing. Raise your hand if you know your profit margin. Oh, come on, guys. All right, it's okay. It's okay. I mean, listen, I'm the director of DSLBD. I had to throw that question in there. I have to. And that's because, as my team also knows, and I'm going to have to say that I have to say this almost every time, as Kate knows, if you are doing an activity and you're charging money, but you don't know if you're making money, you may have a very expensive hobby. So I'm here for the real talk, right? So we're gonna get around to that, and DSLBD can help you distinguish between expensive hobbies and money-making ventures. And to that end, I want my team to raise their hands. All right, woohoo! DSLBD in the house. Raise your hand if you are in an industry that does not have a lot of people that look like you. Raise your hand if you feel like you had to make your own community. All right, so let's just give a panelist a sense of sort of the kind of the people in the room. So, and then I'm going to ask a couple of questions, and then we're going to let you all ask some questions, right? So, I have to jump kind of to the end on something here, because this is a SheMade panel, and I'm gonna start with something. Anika said two things that I want to sort of talk about, because I think this happens to creatives, and I also think this happens with women, especially creative women. It could happen. Okay, so Anika gave herself the air quotes with the gourmet food, right? You know, even as I was getting dressed, I was like, is this necklace too much? I will say that when I was running my business, I was making thousands of cupcakes a day. I was on CNN worldwide and social media, and, you know, doing a pretty darn good job for years, but still seemed to stumble in my own mouth and in my own mind before I would call myself a baker, right? And so creatives seem to sort of have these hurdles before we will take ourselves seriously. And I think that is something that also makes it hard for us to price appropriately and to consider what we do a business. And so I want to ask the panel, like, for yourselves and for the products in your markets, is it just me? Am I alone? Am I the only one that ever had that problem?
No, I don't think so at all. I think that, let me take a step back and just say this. I had no business starting a business, really. I was in my early 20s. I didn't have any money. I had moved to a new city. I knew one person in DC, and I had to build my network from scratch. I had to, you know, go it alone for a very long time. And I think that what you're talking about is, I think it's not only with creatives, I think it's simply the reality of growing up in a society that oftentimes undermines us, whether you're from a racial perspective or gender perspective. Everyone was like, oh, she's so cute. Look at her trying to do something. Like, go get a PhD, go get a master's degree, go get an MBA, don't start a business. And so I think that we oftentimes have that, like, critical mindset because it's in the environment. And I think sometimes too, our parents might, because they don't want us to feel bad if we try something and we fail at it, that it's like, always be doubtful. Always don't be too confident. Don't ever think that you can do something. But honestly, on this journey, I absolutely think part of it is believing you can do something and naming it and being very specific about what you're trying to achieve. And don't let anyone kind of talk you out of what you believe in your heart and your spirit. And I think that was all I had when I started SheMade, was I can do this. And that evolved over time into not only being about me and my brand, but also about who else in my community needs support and needs to be uplifted. And I really think it's important that we say this: everyone in this room is not a competitor with each other. Black people, we are not competitors with each other. People of color, we are not competitors with each other. We actually go further when we're lifting each other up. And that's what everyone on this panel is doing, is using the little that we have. Because the reality of it, we don't really have all the money. We don't really have all the relationships and the connections, right? But we have something. And if we share that across our community, it's a multiplier effect. What I do in my community multiplies. What she does in her community multiplies. What she does in her community multiplies. And so in 2018, I started doing these pop-ups, and it was very, very informal. It was, I have a space, it's the holiday season, who else wants to come into the space and sell some products? It was never meant to be anything beyond that. And then it evolved into having 6 pop-ups since 2018 in 4 or 5 different locations, partnering with DSLBD and working with primarily women-owned and minority-owned businesses who make their own products, whether it's jewelry, clothing, apparel, home goods. And now we have a pop-up in DuPont Circle, 1224 Connecticut Avenue, for those of you who ever roll through DuPont. And to go back to your question, what I see in the community is people are proud of their work and proud of the products that they make, and they really want to grow and scale and build their businesses. But there is this mindset oftentimes of not taking up all the space that I think we should take up, especially when you're being an entrepreneur. Take up as much space as possible. And for me, what that means is not only to push yourself forward, but to also push the other people in your community forward as well.
I think there's a scarcity mindset. I think people feel like if I tell you that I'm applying for the Dream Grants, I don't want you to compete with me for the Dream Grants, right? And there, you know, there's a discrete amount of money available, right? But I also think that that scarcity mindset keeps everybody small. And I think that that scarcity mindset will keep everyone in a tiny box, right? And I think that when you have femme fatale, when you have, you know, when you have the pop-ups and the collaboratives, then all of the brands are bigger. Everything in femme fatale is bigger. Everything that comes into the, and I don't want to get over the neighborhood, Neighbors DC. Yeah, Neighbors DC. Because then you're not going just for cookies or just for, you know, one product or just for earrings. You're coming for everything. Or maybe we're coming for cookies, but you never just leave just with the cookies, right? And I think that's what ends up happening because the brands of many things come together, and then everyone, you know, a rising tide can raise all boats. But I think that when we move from fear-based or scarcity, and you know, and honestly, like the establishment, says the director of the Department of Small Local Business Development, says the lady from the government, but like, you know, it works when certain people stay small. It works when certain people stay small, right?
I just wanted to touch on that because I think it's not just a creative issue. I think it's a human issue that when we are brought into this world, we are put into the system that is meant to exploit us, to be extractive, to create that scarcity mindset. And the market economy, it works perfectly. It is doing, there's not a problem with the market economy. It works perfectly the way that it was supposed to function. And that is, even for what I see in 5 years working with all these entrepreneurs, I see the scarcity mindset when they begin coming in. And that's one thing that we're working on programming, of getting out of that scarcity mindset, because we see people investing in themselves, but they're not investing in each other. And that is the key to making sure that you are successful and that everybody in your community is successful as well. So the creatives, we have challenges, but at the core, it's a human issue. And at Femme Fatale, yes, we nurture and support creatives, but it's for community as well. Like, we have 3 different customer base. We have the entrepreneur, we have the community, right? And then we have the consumer as well. And so I just invite all of us to begin really tapping into our own talents and skill sets and begin relying on ourselves, because that's how we're going to get out of this system.
But it's terrifying, right? I mean, I will say, you know, so I've said I'm a mother of children, right? So my son was working on a project and he wanted to do the easiest thing in the project with his friends. And I had to say to him, I was like, buddy, if I was on this project, I would want to kick you off. He's like, but I'll be the one that staples it together. And I was like, kid, nobody wants to be with that guy. Like seriously, they're going to vote you off this island. Never be that guy. Never be a Whitfield and be that guy. I cannot allow it. And he doubled down, and then we had one of those moments, and I was like, okay, your friends might allow this, but you need to understand, mommy has 3 assignments for you, and you will not see a screen until this and this and this happen. Your friends are going to allow that nonsense. You will not turn on anything electronic until the following things happen. And he was so mad, but I was like, part of it is teaching ourselves and each other how to collaborate and participate. But I think it is scary because you don't want to be the sucker. It's like, wait a minute, he got the same grade and he just stapled, right? We all got 3s. We all got 3s and he just stapled. But I think, eventually the ones that just staple, they get booted out, right? And I think that, maybe talk about how you manage the environment, because I'm aware, not everybody is, contributing in the ecosystem. Look at their faces.
I had to learn that. And I'm finally at the acceptance that not everybody that does participate in our pop-ups is going to participate 100%. And it hurt me for a very long time. And it bothered me for a very long time. And there was actually a lot of anger and resentment because people weren't showing up. But then I had to look at my blessings. Right? There's always 2 sides to a story. And the blessings were the people that were showing up. The people who are really investing in themselves when they come into Femme Fatale DC, right? And it's not my job. I have too many things to do in this world to support people, to support myself, to try to beg people to show up for other people. And I also have to forgive too, because it's not their fault. They are in a system that it's the hustle culture. They got to worry about themselves. They got to do what they need to do, and that's cool. But our mission is always the same. That's how we stay successful, is that no matter what, we're going to continue to work on creating economic liberation for women entrepreneurs, right? If you show up, cool. If you don't show up, awesome, we're still here and we're doing what we said that we were going to do.
Mm-hmm. I wanted to say something on what you said. I think another great way to create community and to have things circulate is to have funds and money circulate back into the community. And we can do that within the pop-ups themselves. Like, my pop-ups are $80. However, when you come, I'm not taking anything from you. When I started out baking, my cookies were $3 and they were huge. And then I had a customer, him and his wife, they actually came and said, hey, you're selling them really cheap, up the price. So I upped them to $4.75. Long story short, now my cookies are $7. Because I raised my price, because I recognize the value of what I'm doing. A great way to do that, yeah, you measure your products and all that stuff, but check on how you feel after you're done doing all of this. How much is that worth? Once you raise those prices, you feel so confident to tell the next person in the community, hey sis, you need to raise those prices. Dude, like, you're making quality stuff, raise those prices. And that way you're able to, 1, show up, and 2, when you're at the pop-ups, you're able to serve your neighbor as well, like buy from them. I have earrings from Mutani's Pockets. I have bracelets from Fa and Nijiye. They're $35 a piece, but they're worth it. She sources them from Ghana. Like, everything is handcrafted in Ghana. Everything is handcrafted in Kenya. So I think learn also to bring that money back within the spaces you're in.
Well, and to Adriana's point, the market will tell you, right? If those cookies were $15, then you'd be like, oh, wait a minute, no one's buying the cookies, right? So let me open up if there's questions. I have more questions, but
Well, first of all, we're moving next to Mary's building, Market 7, on Benning Road. So that's what's next. I want to really quickly touch on what was talked about in terms of the community, and some people will do the work and some people won't do the work. And I couldn't agree more. Move with the people who will do the work. Instead of, trying to like change people's thinking and mindset, everyone is grown. We're all adults. I've reached a point in my life where it's like, this is what I'm building, this is what I'm doing. If you're on it, great. If you're not, okay, we'll see you when we see you. And it's not meant to be a harsh way of thinking, but it's like you will spend so much time trying to get people on board when there are other people who are already ready and at the level that you're trying to work at. So I think that's really important, especially in our community. And the thing is that when you start growing and scaling, the people who weren't engaged earlier, they might come back around. Right? And so for me, the way we run our pop-ups is very different, because I tried to do the pop-ups where it was like, oh, kumbaya, we're all going to take a shift and you come in here, and people wouldn't show up, and it was on my name and it was under my business. And so here I am trying to run my business, and now having to take on the extra burden of running these stores on behalf of people who weren't showing up. So we completely changed our model, and what we do is we run it like a retail store. 45% of sales goes to support staffing and goes to support the expenses of the pop-up. And, because people don't show up. Like, that's just a reality. Like, people won't show up. Oh, something happened, my car broke down, all these excuses. But anyway, that's another story. In terms of what's next, I am building the first beauty maker space in this country to support early stage beauty entrepreneurs, so I can pass on the knowledge that I have developed over the last 15 plus years, so that people who look like me can take advantage of the $96 billion industry, which is the natural organic personal care industry. How this product is made is important. Who makes this product is important. More of us need to understand how to make these products and get those products into distribution. Macy's, a couple of weeks ago, made a $5 billion commitment to diversity and inclusion within their supply chain. We sell to Macy's. Nobody is building the pipeline so that more people who look like me can sell into Macy's or Target or wherever, or just sell on their own websites. So the facility is going to be state-of-the-art, completely set up so that people can walk in, use tabletop manufacturing to make 10 products, 20 products, 30 products, 100 products, or they can work with our in-house team to make 100,000 products. And it's in partnership with DC government. I have to just give you a shout out, because she has, everything everyone has said about Director Whitfield is just true. Her support of the small business community and economy in DC is unmatched. It's unmatched. I'm sitting here building out this space because of the investments that she and her team, Shannon, Kate, you guys are amazing, believed in me, supported me, provided me with grants, provided me with time, right? Meaning, when you help a small business get to the next step, it then gives us the ability to get to the next step. And that's what you do. And that's what your office does. And so, when I started this idea of creating this facility, I was like, I'm going to raise $1 million. That's what I'm going to do. To what you just said, I'm on target now to raise $5 million.
Come on, clap.
And the reason why, I priced myself too low. I was like, oh, it's going to be so hard to raise $1 million. And it was easy. And then it turned into 2. And now it's like, I'm not saying that because a lot of times too, we throw out big numbers and it's like, oh, wow, that's amazing, you're being successful. And it's not even about that, but it's about the fact that there's so much need in our community. We need so much. But the thing is that we are also our own solutions. We can't wait for anyone to come and save us. How many hundreds of years have we lived in this country and in this world? We have to save ourselves. And that means being bold, putting it out there. and saying to yourself, how can I build community, but in a way that is taking on multi-billion-dollar industries and taking back ownership. Because the truth of the matter is, Black people used to own manufacturing in beauty. Madam C.J. Walker, you know, the not Luster Products and the Oil Sheen and all of those people, those were Black-owned businesses, and they were bought out by conglomerates. So now we are the #1 consumers of beauty products that we don't even make. And they're not even made for us and to work for us. So imagine taking back control of manufacturing. We have manufacturing facilities here that we are making our own products, and we are able to replicate it across the country. So that is what's next for us. 7.
All right, so what is next for Femme Fatale DC is we are transitioning from our pop-up model to being permanent in DC. So we are purchasing our first space in Cleveland Park. It was our space last year. And this is huge. This is huge because it is women-owned, it is Black and Latinx-owned, it is queer-owned, and it is community-built. That is so empowering for us to know that we chose to do the pop-up model, but it was hard. It was tiring, and we were at the mercy of the building owners. We didn't know when our lease would end because we had an agreement with them. And this, again, we're creating our own fate now, and we don't have to answer to anybody. We didn't really answer to anybody before. That's just how we rolled. But this is huge because this is going to allow us to expand. We are actually, I can't put too much out there, but we are in the next 2 years going to be opening up something similar. I mean, it's not beauty, but a warehouse space for entrepreneurs where it's all in-house. So we have a whole team, photographers, we have a podcast place, we have a place where you can print your own prints. The bottles that you need for your candles and for your lotions and all of that are there. And you will also be able to have the proper incubation, something that I've dreamed about for so long, but I just couldn't get there because it's taken 5 years for me to get out of the weeds, and now we finally have the capital to also hire staff, which is huge. Yeah. So that is what is next for us, and I'm super excited about that.
Very nice. I feel like so overflowed right now. What's next for Neighbors DC? We are coming up on our first year in July. So what is next is more collaborations, more partnerships. Again, currently I am partners with Lululemon, and I haven't announced to everybody else yet, but our partnership is coming to an end. Lululemon is a pop-up, and unfortunately they are closing the store, but we have another stellar partnership lined up waiting to let all of the vendors know. This time we'll be able to curate up to 12 vendors at a time. Each vendor will be able to have their own tent space. It is in a prime location. Walk score is moderate to high. So I am excited. Also, folks, if you do run a small business, all of the pop-ups moving forward until we're able to find a prime location like Lululemon will be curated. So get your packaging on point, get your websites on point. The partners want to pick and choose and have a say this time. So I want to make sure that everyone is prepared, everyone is excited to win. My goal is for vendors to come out and say, I made 3 Gs last weekend at Neighbors DC. So I'm excited for all of that.
That's great. So I think one of the things that I hear about this is where, everyone is progressing. and as people are thinking about their businesses, something that I push with every business owner, whether they are just beginning or whether they are, 18 years in, is building your business as a wealth building entity, not a job. Because sometimes you have a business and it still feels like a job. And, when you are owning your property, when you are owning your manufacturing process, you are owning the capacity within your business. And so I think, even giving people the opportunity to own the way their stuff is curated, is helping people with their economic self-determination. And so you see this sort of stages of evolution right here. And I think it is super exciting. I'm over this time, but I want to see if, I'm sure there's more questions. Yes.
Okay, so I moved out of my aunt's house and moved into this space. I live alone in Silver Spring, and when I started, the business and I bought the LLC and all of that, I knew that God wanted me to do it full time, so I wasn't working for anybody else. So trials and tribulations of trying to overcome this idea that I can do it, and that I will do it, and that when I'm in business, it sometimes gets lonely, and not trying to. There's no problem in reaching out, but when you're running a small business, it gets lonely and you have to do things alone. People are going to disappoint you. People are going to make false promises, and it's not on them. It's not on you. It's just how life works. You just have to be able to be grounded enough. I read scripture. I'm very connected to God. I read my Bible. I call on the power of Jesus because I believe in that power. And that really does help me to stay grounded. I know that, yeah, I'm crying at 3 a.m., but at 6 a.m., I have to get up and I have to go out and get this job done. Like, no one's going to feel sorry for you. And the first couple of years you're there wanting people to feel sorry for you, wanting people to feel your pain. But unless you speak out, unless you make a way for yourself, or unless you speak out, nothing's gonna change. You have to do it, and you're doing it. So I'm excited to see you do it. If you wanna pop up with us and give us some live music, I'm open to that as well.
I wanna tell a terrible story. And Kate's heard this story. It's a tale of Shamrock Fest. So, when we were in a cupcake truck, and trucks go to festivals all the time, and we took this advice, which was, if 30,000 people come to Shamrock Fest, and about 10% of them buy cupcakes, then, bring 3,000 cupcakes to Shamrock Fest. No, because Shamrock Fest, as it turns out, is really about the beer and the music. Shamrock Fest is about drinking. It's not about cupcakes at all. And in my mind now, it was also raining, but I think that's also just how I felt inside. As drunk people were sort of hanging on my window and like, oh, what do you have in here? Oh, this is well. And so then I had, 3,000 cake pop ingredients. I don't remember how many we sold, but it was not 3,000. So you have to take into account more than just how many people are coming. That's a lesson I never forgot. You learn through your mistakes, and you never forget them. You never forget them. So you gotta take the advice, you pick yourself up and you learn, and you never forget. And and one of my mentors was like, well, that was expensive. We call that tuition. He thought that was funny. I did not think that was funny at the time, and I can sort of smile bitterly through my tears. You are gonna make mistakes. And if you swing for the fences, you might make spectacular mistakes. That is okay. Make spectacular mistakes. It is okay. You will be okay. Keep going, right? And please do yourself the service of not trying to pretend and hide. We have all made spectacular mistakes. And the only people that don't fail are the people that don't try, right? So everyone who's laughing at you is just trying to warm themselves in the blanket of their own regret. Forget those people. Call us, because we have all failed spectacularly. It is gonna be all right, okay? All right. All right, well, we are over time, guys. I am so grateful to these women. I am so grateful to my team. DSLBD is here for you, dslbd.dc.gov. Create, do it, try it, you know, and then try again, all right? All right, thanks, everybody.